This is Ag Matters PM from the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, brought to you by the Iowa Soybean Association, your daily recap of the information that affects Iowa's farmers, producers, and consumers, right here in the heart of the heartland. With reports from our award-winning broadcast team of Dustin Hoffman, Riley Smith, and Mark Magnuson. Now, from the IARN studios in Des Moines, here's Riley Smith.
Well, good day and welcome into Ag Matters PM from the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network. I'm Riley Smith. Today is Monday, January 30th of 2023, and we're so glad you could join us today. In today's episode, I talk with Adam Ledvina of Iowa Kiko Goats and how they use their goat herd for brush management on farms and pastures. We also have a check of that ag weather outlook, but first, let's run down the markets.
It's time now for the Ag Matters PM Closing Market Summary, your source for market analysis and settlement prices from the day's trade in Chicago, courtesy of the folks at agmarket.net.
Well, we're at the end of another trading day in the ag marketplace, and for a bit of analysis, we go to Robin Schmahl of agmarket.net. Robin, first off, what do we see going on in the grain markets today?
Well, most of the strength that we saw did come in the soybeans, and it was a little surprising that we did see that strength initially, because we did have some good rains in Argentina. Brazil, not as widespread as maybe the Brazilians or Argentinians would like to see, but nevertheless there we got a little bit of cooling. But then in the 7 to 10 day forecast starting this weekend, we're looking at some hot weather, dry weather coming in there again. So it's not out of the woods yet, and there's some damage that's probably been done to the crop. But harvest in Brazil is 4.4% done versus 11.3% a year ago. That's not a big deal either, because we know how we are in the U.S. Here too, we can be behind or ahead, and then you can catch up and things like that. So Brazil's having some rain issues where it does a bit of delaying, but it's early. It's not a big deal. Probably the biggest thing that we were looking in soybeans is that the export inspections, even though they weren't a huge difference from last week, they were at 68.2 million bushels. They were up 600,000 bushels from the previous week. But the last 3 weeks of the export inspections have shown some significant, better than expected sales. Or inspections, I should say, relative to what was anticipated for this time of year. So when we look at the difference between those two at this time of the year on the chart, that probably gave it some good push underneath that market, solidifying the fact that we're seeing some really strong exports, and that's continuing on that market. Now, the China was really out of the market last week because of their Lunar New Year. So that's actually caused Brazilian soybean price to fall to the lowest level it's been since 2021. They're looking at a record crop, plus because of the China not buying from them, it affected their soybean price. It didn't really affect ours that much because we've been seeing the soybean price moving higher. Now, that did spill over into corn. Corn export inspections were 20.8 million bushels, down 7.9 million from last week. So that was not, a real good thing. And they're running behind a year ago. But corn came along for the ride. Of course, not quite as much. It was only up about 1 or 2 cents. So, but it did keep it in positive territory. Wheat, same thing, 16.4 million bushels. But that was up 3.5 million bushels from last week. But again, that came along for the ride. There wasn't a whole lot underneath it. They're expecting some beneficial moisture coming across in the plains here as we move forward. So they were more the corn, the soybeans were kind of coming along for the ride. The real spark, if you want to say, or real strength was in the soybeans and soybean meal. Soybean meal was up substantially again today, riding on that situation. And now we're looking at, as we come to the new crop here, nitrogen and potash prices continue to weaken. I mean, we've been seeing that fairly regularly, and that could lend itself to a better crop. I mean, it's a long ways off yet, but farmers are not going to really be holding back, I don't think, on this year based on their fertilizer prices, because they have fallen quite substantially since a year ago.
All right, Robin. And then what about the other side of the ag marketplace in the livestock complex? What do we see going on there today?
Well, in the cattle market, we did see some really strong futures prices there. And that's probably looking forward to the cattle inventory report that's coming out tomorrow after the close. The average estimate for beef cow inventory as of January 1st is 28.86 million head. That would be down 4.2% from a year before. If realized, that would be the lowest herd in history. And that would really lend itself to some bullishness, in the whole cattle complex. Now, calf inventory is estimated to be down 2.8%. But on the other side of that spectrum, the cutout prices were up today. Choice was up just 7%, or 7 cents, I should say, but select up $1.14. But choice cutouts have been declining almost consistently since the beginning of the year. So we are that situation of, is demand going to be slowing, or is this cattle inventory decreasing like it is really going to support this market as we move forward? But that was the focus of the trade today. Wasn't to focus on cutouts, wasn't to focus on cash, upcoming cash, because last week cash was steady to $1 higher. The focus was on that inventory report. Now, hogs, they had some really strong prices earlier in the session, but they faded as the day progressed. Cutouts did show a nice gain at the midday report of $2.21. Might be able to hold there, might be a little lower. National Direct Morning Report, cash was down 39 cents, so that was not real supportive. And the February contract is the lowest one that's been under some pressure. That's converging to the index, and the index Friday was at 72.52. So the futures are about $3 higher than that. Now there's 2 weeks left trading the February, but it has to start moving closer to that index. So the market just kind of ran out of steam. It needs more consistent support under that market in order to really get that market off of oversold condition and into a retracement and a trend higher.
All right, Robin, lots of great information today. For those of our listeners who would like to get in touch and learn more from the folks at agmarket.net, how can they do that?
Well, they can call me directly at 877-256-3253 or go to agmarket.net. Phone number's on there. Pick up the phone and call. Anybody in the office or in the other branch offices will be able to help.
Well, thanks again for taking the time to visit with us today, Robin. And of course, we always look forward to talking with you again soon.
Thank you. I'm glad to be able to be part of the show.
That again was Robin Schmahl of agmarket.net. We'll go ahead and take a look at how those numbers closed. That's courtesy of the folks at Bar Chart. March corn is up 3/4 cents at 6.83 3/4. December new crop up 2.5 at 5.89 3/4. March soybeans up 25 3/4 at 15.35 1/4. November new crop up 16 1/4 at 13.67 1/2. March soybean meal up 15.20 at 4.88.70. Soybean oil up 70 at 61.32. Chicago wheat up 2.5 at 7.52 1/2. Minneapolis spring wheat went unchanged at 9.21 1/2. Kansas City hard red wheat up 4.5 at 8.73 3/4. March oats up 3 1/4 at 3.91 1/2. On the Merck, February live cattle up 202 at 158.75. March feeders up 45 at 183.92. February lean hogs down 72 at 75.15. February pork cutout down 75 at 82.92. Class 3 milk down 3 cents at 19.45. And that's been a check of the markets here on Ag Matters PM. We're going to go ahead and take a quick break to hear from our sponsor, the Iowa Soybean Association and the Soy Checkoff. When we come back, I talk with Adam Ledvina of Iowa Kiko Goats. This is Ag Matters PM.
Iowa Soybean Association is driven to deliver for Iowa's 40,000 soybean farmers. We're proud to provide objective agronomic research, a helping hand with soil and water stewardship, and timely industry news powered by the Soybean Checkoff. Learn more at iasoybeans.com.
Welcome back to Ag Matters PM from the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network. I'm Riley Smith. We all know that we have parts of our land that can get a little overrun with brush and just weeds and things that we don't want to be there necessarily. And Adam Ledvina of Iowa Kiko Goats has found a creative solution in using a goat herd to deploy onto a patch of land and just let them do their thing, eat that brush down, and find a great way to manage that area. So I had the chance to talk with Adam at the Practical Farmers of Iowa conference a couple weeks ago, and he talked about how he got to where he is now, how he picked the proper breed of goat that can do that job most efficiently, and just how that herd operates. We are at the Practical Farmers of Iowa conference in Ames at Iowa State University. We're here in the Schmahl building, and we are here with Adam Ledvina. Honestly, a really interesting discussion on using goats as kind of a land management, weed management tool. So first off, let's just talk about how you got started in this business of using goats. What gave you the idea of bringing goats in and kind of using that for weed management and just kind of just land management in general?
Sure. Yeah, I kind of got the idea in college. I went to school for biology, environmental studies, natural resource type work. Started working for the DNR. I worked in Iowa, down in the Everglades in Florida, out in California, kind of all over the place, working in conservation, and just had this kind of in the back of my mind of, I'm running big machines, skid loaders with brush mowers. I'm spraying herbicide. I'm walking up on steep angles and rolling ankles and just being dangerous ways to clear out invasive brush. And I'm thinking, goats can eat this stuff. Goats can do this naturally. And how can I help other people, or how can I figure out how to do this and help other people find that extra tool? This is a new tool in the toolbox. It's a more natural system and a cheaper way. It doesn't cause erosion like these big machines. Doesn't ruin the water systems with herbicide, and then it creates a byproduct of meat or milk or fiber. Just kind of incorporating that sustainable regenerative agriculture with conservation and having that happy medium place.
Right, and that diversified agriculture is so important because there's a lot of sides to agriculture that a lot of people maybe won't necessarily think about, and this is one of those things. So you talked about how you started off and you had to kind of experiment with breeds that were most effective for this kind of job. Now, obviously, most people in Iowa, if they're going to think of goats, they might think of Boer goats, Nubians, the kinds that are raised for livestock. But as you mentioned in the presentation, they're not necessarily the greatest for grazing and sending out on their own to take care of that. So how did you kind of discover these Kiko goats, and just how effective have they been for you?
Sure, yeah, it's been a trial by error, and I've had everything from the beginning. I had Boer goats, I had dairy goats, I had Spanish, I've had Savannah, I've had the novelty breeds, your Nigerian dwarf, fainters, pygmies, basically everything that's available in the world, and everything has their purpose, and everything in my mind should kind of stick to their purpose. You've got Boer goats, if you're raising Boer goats for show, and if you're going to have a feedlot, and then your dairy goats, you're milking them. Your Spanish goats, they come from the Texas, Oklahoma, Mexico region. They're a very dry, arid climate, so they don't do well up here. Same with the Boers and Savannahs. They are a dry, arid South African breed, so they just do not do well in Iowa. It's a wet climate. It's a cold climate. It's just totally different. So we went with the Kiko breed out of New Zealand. So New Zealand is a cold, wet, mountainous terrain. It's a hazard. They grew up in a hazard, and they have figured out, over the years of breeding, they're also very protective mothers. Like I say, our goats are they're more like white-tailed deer than a goat. They do their own thing. They're out there minding their own business, and then they can fight off predators. They got the horns. They got that attitude. In 10 years of raising goats, we've never had an issue with a predator. Coyotes, mountain lions, bobcats, all that stuff. Never had an issue. We have no guard dog. We have no llama, donkey, nothing. We just have goats, and we have protective mothers, and we kind of cull for that too. If the mother that is one to more tuck tail and run, we cull her out, and we keep those aggressive mothers, aggressive towards animals, not aggressive towards people. I've got a border collie, and these goats they're aggressive with anything that looks like a threat on the ground level, like a predator. But with humans, they rub up against you. They're nice. The Kikos are built for the job, and they just eat that brush really well. They're up on two legs. I've got, in my presentation, I had a video of a goat that she got wedged between two trees and just kind of shimmied her way up towards the top of the tree and just eating leaves all the way up. And you're not going to see that out of a lot of the other breeds. But, these goats, they want to work, and they do.
Right, and it's a very interesting management tool that farmers can use. Now, from that perspective, what would it look like for a farmer, maybe time that they would have to set aside of a pasture, say, that's overrun with brush? How much time do they need for those goats to go through and kind of do their thing? And what are the steps to that process?
Yep. So really, I'd say give me a call in the wintertime is a great time to give me time to plan it all out. But I'd say we kid from March to May, so we're kind of busy with kidding season during that. But we jump into brush management jobs, I'd say 1st of May, middle of May, whenever things start growing. When you see those little buds starting on multiflora rows, that's when we start taking on jobs. And the earlier we can get there, the better. But we do jobs from May to, well, honestly, we do jobs from May to September that are effective on a lot of that brushy stuff. But we do cedar jobs all year long. When all that green foliage disappears, look around. The only thing that's green is a cedar tree. And so when you want those cedars cleared out of your pastures or wherever, the goats come in the wintertime and they chew on those cedars and they just defoliate everything below 6 foot. And we can pretty much we take calls all the time. If we can fit you in, we'll fit you in. We've got jobs all summer long, but they're, the herd's also expanding, and we have 2 to 3 kids apiece on a lot of goats, and so we're going to be pushing 1,000 goats this year. So we'll have enough goats to go out on jobs. So in a nutshell, we show up, we bring a trailer full of goats, we set up, we trim a path around the outside of an area, we set up electric net fencing, and we have different means to keep them in, but generally set up that electric net fencing and then release the goats, and they go to work. And we're usually there from anywhere from 1 to 3 weeks, just depends on how big of an area, how many goats. There's a big equation to it all, but I would say generally 1 to 3 weeks. Sometimes we might need to do another hit. It just depends on what your plans are. It's nice to schedule something out with you where I can get what are your goals, what can I do with you, and what's your timeline, and just kind of hear your side of what you want and tell you what I can do and try to find somewhere that we can meet in the middle on that.
Now, are there any plants that the goats target really well that are kind of maybe their expertise? Because obviously a lot of farmers, especially if they have a cattle pasture that they want managed, they're going to be looking at getting rid of those thistles, those honeysuckles, honey locusts, anything that has a bunch of spines on it that would be uncomfortable for those cattle. Are the goats particularly effective at getting those out?
You're naming their favorite treats. They like the woody browse. They start up high, anything up high. The woody browse, the multiflora rose, the honeysuckle. Then they kind of work their way down from there. So they like that woody brush the most. Then we'll go down to wild parsnip, poison ivy, more the herbaceous thistles, Canada thistles, musk thistles, all the thistles. Anything that is browsy, anything with a big broad leaf, they're going to nail it. Grass is the last thing they'll eat, so it doesn't really affect your cattle. If you can run cattle and goats alongside each other or rotate them one than the other. So if you run cattle first and send the goats in, the only thing left is the stuff they're supposed to eat, right? And then, or you run the goats first, they're going to go for that brushy stuff. So then sunlight's going to come down, grow more grass. I've had people where, they've got 80 acres, which should house about 50 to 80 head of cattle, and they've got 20 head in there because they have so much brush. And then we come in there, we knock it out. After a couple of years, they're running that 50 head that they used to get to, because once you knock out that brush, the sun can get down to the grass, spread out, and just keeps growing, reproducing, creating more, and yeah.
All right, and I know there's so much to this topic of conversation, but obviously we only have so much time for an interview today. If there are some of our listeners and our viewers who would like to learn more, get in touch, and maybe see if they could use this tool on their own operation, how could they do that?
Yeah, so we used to have a website. We dropped the website. We got most of our attention off of Facebook page. We got an Iowa Kiko Goats Facebook page. Technically, we have Blue Collar Goatscaping Facebook page too, but Iowa Kiko Goats has most of that. Whether you're looking to get into goats of your own, or if you want to hire us out to do a brush management job, that's where I'd reach out. You can get contact information on there. Honestly, if you Google Kiko Goats in Iowa, you're gonna find me pretty quick. The first 20 things that pop up is going to be us. So easy to find contact information out there. And yeah, feel free to give us a call anytime and be happy to help.
All right, Adam, thanks for taking the time to visit with us today.
Thank you.
That again was Adam Ledvina of Iowa Kiko Goats. As for right now, let's go ahead and take a look at that ag weather outlook. Well, the temperatures are going to be pretty cold for the next day or so, as we have those single-digit to low-teen highs. Pretty cold conditions, but honestly, it doesn't feel too bad if you're outside. The wind is fairly still. The skies are mostly clear, so not too terrible. Could definitely be worse. But then looking ahead to the rest of the week, we're already going to warm up just a little bit fairly soon. So just kind of back to that more normal winter conditions. Nothing to complain about there. So let's go ahead and take a look at what the National Weather Service has in store for the next 24 hours. As you can see from the National Weather Service, those frigid temperatures are going to stick around for just a little bit. Today we have mostly sunny skies, but still very cold temperatures with negative wind chills, those highs ranging from the low single digits to the mid-teens. Tonight we have mostly clear skies as the frigid temps hang out for just a little bit longer. Tonight, those lows ranging from about negative 11 to 4. And tomorrow, we have sunny skies across the state as temps start to warm up again already, highs ranging from the low teens to mid-20s. And taking a look at the affiliate weather map for tomorrow, Cherokee will be sunny with a high around 16, Shenandoah sunny and 26, Des Moines sunny and 23, Waterloo sunny and 15, Albia sunny and 23, and big surprise, Clinton sunny as well with a high around 13. For more detailed forecasts in your part of the state, make sure to check in with your local Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network affiliate. That's been a check of the Ag Weather Outlook, and that also brings us to the end of this episode of Ag Matters PM. You can find all of our content on our website at iowaagnet.com. You can also follow us on social media at Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, and LinkedIn. And you can find all of our video content as well as previous episodes of AMPM on our YouTube channel. So make sure you subscribe and hit the notification bell to see when those videos go live. Don't forget as well our free Twice Daily Market podcast on Apple, Amazon, Google, Spotify, and Podbean. From the IRN studios in Des Moines, I'm Riley Smith. On behalf of Mark Magnuson and Dustin Huffman, we thank you for watching. This has been Ag Matters PM.